So, you might be noticing the quite intense and debatably overpowering green lighting. That is because it is a reflection of the lighting that my 9th and, for a moment, 10th incarnation had in their TARDIS. And the reason for that is because this video is going to be rating, in a tier list kind of thing, every single TARDIS interior scene in Doctor Who. So let's get on with it. Hello there, people of the universe. My name is MichSciFi, and welcome to a TARDIS tier list. Now, before we get started, I do absolutely want to know what your guys' individual tier lists are in the comments, so feel free, as I go along, make a note in the comments yourself, and then by the end of the video, post your comment. So, yeah, without further ado, we are starting in 1963 with the first TARDIS used by William Hartnell, and I think momentarily by Pat Troutman. I like the roundels on the walls. I like that there was the, I think it was the fault locator. So like one of the walls wasn't just roundels, it was something different and more unique. And while I've not watched too many Hartnell stories, I will confess, I do really like the idea of that. So starting strong, we are going to go in B. And then up next is the first one used by Jon Pertwee, which I don't know what episode it was first used in. I'm going to take a guess. Just to interrupt my guess, which by the way was wrong, the first time we see the Third Doctor's full interior was the Claws of Axos, which is the set that I rate here, so I'm right there. But after, I rate the one he used in the Three Doctors, which I thought were the only two sets that Jon Pertwee used. Turns out the set changed again in Death to the Daleks, which I have since watched. So, while the set didn't change enough to rate it as a separate set, at the same time, I apologise that I didn't know, so forgive me for that. I'm not going to lie, I really don't like it. It's more the roundels on the wall are, for me personally, a little bit overbearing, and I'm like 85% certain, maybe 86, 87% certain, the roundels are just giant plates. So somebody on a planet out there in the 7 galaxies is having a barbecue and they're about to serve their meat. That sounds weird. They're going to serve their meals, and they can't because Jon Pertwee stole their plates, which is just unnecessary. So with all that in mind, I'm going to place this in C. However, sticking with Jon Pertwee, this next TARDIS, I don't know when it first appeared, but for me, the first time I laid eyes on it was in The Three Doctors, which is one of my favourite Jon Pertwee stories. I love his costume. I love Joe Grant. I love the Brigadier. I love Unit. I love Omega. The lore behind him is really brilliant. And then getting to see Patrick Troutman and then William Hartnell, rest his soul, for one last time as the Doctor. While he is just sat in a black void, he still has a tremendous impact, much like the gargantuan impact he's left on the show's legacy as a whole. So I really like this TARDIS. I'm going to put it in B as well, above the first one. Up next, we're regenerating once again, much like the TARDIS, and we're in the 4th Doctor's era. This TARDIS, I'm not going to lie, it's a little... While it is in the background of a really iconic shot from Pyramids of Mars, when he goes, "I'm not a human being, I walk in eternity." As far as design goes, it's a little bit too simplistic for my liking. And even though the roundels do look nice compared to the Third Doctor's one, this one's going to go in C below the other Jon Pertwee one. So I am sorry, because there is a charm to it, but it doesn't vibe with me personally. Neither does this next one, the secondary control room, which from what I understand in the behind-the-scenes lore, not the in-universe lore, the outside-universe lore, it was because of budget, I think. And while it's a nice idea that there's a secondary control room out there in the TARDIS's vast, endless corridors, I don't like that there's no proper time rotor. And as well, you could... I think it's just buttons, and you could press the DMAT lever. Oh no, I've got to reach for the stabilizers. And just move your hand slightly and you've done it. For me, it's too basic. And while one would argue you don't need to spend that much time in the TARDIS to worry, I don't know, it doesn't vibe with me personally, so I am going to put this one in D tier. You will notice there isn't an F tier on this list, just because while there are TARDISes we're going to get to later that I really don't like, I don't really want to focus on the negative as much. I'm going to try and say something positive about every single TARDIS, even the ones I don't like. Up next, however, is what I do like. It is the 80s TARDIS, which, if I'm correct, debuted in The Five Doctors, which was actually one of the first classic stories I ever saw. It might have been the 3rd or 4th one I ever saw. The first one was the E-Space trilogy, then followed swiftly by Remembrance of the Daleks, which is one of my, I think is my absolute favourite classic story. It's maybe a close second, and I mean a close second, is Genesis of the Daleks, which is, without a doubt, one of the best Doctor Who stories of all time. The only reason Remembrance for me tops it is because I really love the Seventh Doctor and Ace, and I love the Dalek Civil War narrative element that was going on throughout the 80s. I'd love to see that done again. This console is really swanky. I love how... I do like it for the most part. Like I said, I don't like how there's not too many levers, but overall, it is really nice. And to be fair, one of the only levers on it, if not the only lever, is the one for the doors, which I do like. So this one's going to go in... I want to say B, but in the middle. Because like with the John Pertwee one, it's clear that the 80s one is more advanced and there was clearly more money spent on it, specifically the materials and the look. But I think the aura of the third Doctor's one and the aura of that whole room, something about that slightly pulls that one ahead. So if we compared them to like side by side, the John Pertwee one would be ever so slightly ahead. Like say if we were rating them out of 5 on this scale, they'd maybe be like 3 out of 5. The Pertwee one would be like 3.6. So they're more or less neck and neck, but just a little bit ahead. Up next is one that might offend my friend Callum, the same way my Batman tier list offended him. And that is the Paul McGann one. In theory, the scale of it is brilliant. I love how much money and time was put into it. Shame we didn't get half as much time and effort into the actual use of it, because you know that series never happened because the movie was a bit nyeh. Paul McGann was amazing, but the movie was a bit nyeh. And like I just said, in theory, the effort and time that was took into building it is brilliant. It doesn't help that the vibe steampunk of the TARDIS doesn't personally gel with me. For me, I like the TARDIS console room to be the console room, and then the other stuff is in other rooms. Whereas this one, it's all under one roof, more or less. Like, it's all in the same, like, oh, it's not just the console room, it's also the garden, the library, the... You know, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I would much rather it being a little more condensed and the other areas had been other rooms. But that said, the main section, like the steampunk spider leg, buttresses, columns, and the main console and the time rotor, I do really, really like. There's one like lever that goes left to right that I really like, and then one of the levers that I think both 7 and 8 pull on, and then it says, what does it say? Timing malfunction? I can't remember. It's been a while since I've watched the movie. And as well, to be fair, I do like the way the scanner works. That's a big box thing that he pulls down on a chain. I do like that. I'm going to say bottom of B, because while I, again, don't like steampunk, I could see myself running around it, playing with it, and having fun. I feel like that's one of the main parameters of these listings, like how much fun would I have playing with it. Up next is the War Doctor's TARDIS, which is more or less a beta 9 and 10 one. But at the same time, for what it is and what it's meant to represent, I really do like it. It's nothing spectacularly groundbreaking that you'd be like, oh, I'd love a set of this, like a play set. So with that in mind, I'm going to put it in C at the top, just because I love the use of the classic roundels, and I think it was really memorable for as brief as an appearance as it had. Up next is my TARDIS, my home, the place I grew up in as a child watching Doctor Who. It's also the place I spent several hours on when I went to the Doctor Who experience back in Cardiff in 2016. And there's no surprise to anybody, this TARDIS is going in S tier. Because when I went to Cardiff, not only did I have fun running around it as much as I could because of where the railings and barriers were set up, I ran around it, my Converse on the grating. It was a place that when I was watching on TV growing up, I always felt safe. So when I saw it in person and I felt that same safety, I felt like I was home, touching the coral structures. Something inside me just felt so at peace. And not just the emotional attachment, the design as well, I think is really cool. I love watching the old behind-the-scenes videos of the designer Edward Thomas. I love some of the controls, the levers, the DMAT lever. Whenever 10 would run up, throw his coat over the buttress, which I did do as well, by the way. Something about it just... it feels like home, and I'm not ashamed to say that my emotional bias is on full display. It means so much to me. Up next, this is more or less Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. Now, I say that in a positive light. I do have some issues with this TARDIS. Namely, the lighting is a little bit overbearing. I did love in the Series 6 minisodes we got, when the lighting was a little bit darker and a little bit more subdued, and is monotone the right word? But that aside, the scale of it, I do really like how much bigger on the inside it is compared to bigger on the inside previously. I love my TARDIS, don't get me wrong. Yes, my TARDIS. Mine. But I do love how with Matt's, they went so much bigger, and I appreciate that, because when Moffat took over, he did say that, he said that Russell and David leaving was going to be a big enough change as is. I think that was part of the reason he said why he didn't keep the same TARDIS, because it'd feel really different without Matt and without David and Russell. So he thought, right, you know what? To make this change feel not as scary, we'll change everything, which I thought was brilliant. I'm probably paraphrasing what he said there, but more or less he explained why he changed TARDIS, and I thought it was a brilliant reason. And for what it's worth, you know, I said before the parameters of this list was how much fun would I have playing with the TARDISes. And with Matt's, the 2D Matt levers, the other 2 levers, feel like they would be really fun to play with. And then there's like corridors and staircases, and then the under bit, the glass floor. Rory, did you drop another thermal coupling?
Sorry.
So for that, I'm going to put it in A tier. However, up next is a TARDIS I really, really like. While I did get to see my TARDIS in the experience, I never got to go on the set tours for the 7B to 10 TARDIS set, which is really annoying because my friend Nathan did, and I'm really jealous because the set really is beautiful. The controls, the scale, the fact that it's a 360 set, it is really, really beautiful. It truly is incredible. And I do like the lighting, and just, I would have loved if Matt had got another Series 8 as Matt, and then Capaldi would have been 9, 10, 11, or maybe 9, 10, 11, 12, because I wish we'd have got more Capaldi, but I would have liked to have got more 11 in that TARDIS, because I think it really, really suited him. So anyway, all that said, for the 11th Doctor version of the Toyota TARDIS, I'm probably going to say in A, above the Willy Wonka TARDIS. Again, I'm saying that positively. Same TARDIS, but a few changes in terms of the roundels, the lighting, and just the furniture. This one is going to go in S tier beneath my TARDIS, because I can't explain it, but the way it's used in Series 10 when we see it, they took an already brilliant set and improved it by only adding a few things here and there, and it really did make a difference. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Then up next, I probably should have done this one before Capaldi's because of 2013, the 50th anniversary. We have the Adventure in Space and Time TARDIS, which is a spectacular recreation of the original TARDIS. However, I'm not a massive fan of the green. Apart from that, I do think it is really nice. So, just above the 80s one. Oh, it's really hard to explain this. It's really hard to explain this, sorry. Because I like the style of the 80s one more, but the look and the aura of the recreated one, even though I don't like the green, everything else wins me over. Does that make sense? I don't know if it does. I apologize if it doesn't make sense, but I just... then the Twice Upon a Time TARDIS, which is... I think they just repainted it. I don't know. I know Moffat said in the video that a good chunk of the set was just reused from Adventure in Space and Time. But because they changed the console to be white instead of green, that does for me make it go... I think at the bottom of A. By the 10th planet, the set was actually only 2 walls. So I like for this special, when they recreated it, they made it in a way as if the budget never suffered, and I like that. Does that make sense? I hope it does. There's something about the way they recreated it and polished it up that really works for me. Up next, however, is sadly a TARDIS that I'm going to put in the bottom of D tier. I really do not like the 13th Doctor's TARDIS. I do like the way the doors isn't just the doors, it has the walls as well, so it kind of makes it look like there is more of the box as you enter the dimension that is the interior. I do like that, and I do like how organic the structures around the interior try to be. For me, it's something that the 9 and 10 one just did better. I don't like how bare the console is. There's one decent lever. There's a custard cream maker that she uses once. I don't know. I was really disappointed by it, and I don't like it. Next, however, for the second TARDIS, or is it 3? No, is there 3? Either way, it's the Fugitive Doctor roof TARDIS. I say 3 because there's the 113 escapes Gallifrey in is purple lit, and then the one that Yaz, Graham, and Ryan leave in is green lit. I might be wrong there, I apologise. But either way, the roof TARDIS, I do really like. For a modified, alternate 60s TARDIS, I do really like it. I like how the console looks, and then the surrounding walls with the structure, the pillars in between the walls, as well as the roof, I think is really, really creative, and I do genuinely really like the look of it. It's the most, how do you explain it? It's like they took the 60s TARDIS and were like, right, we're going to keep the fundamentals of this and then modernize the fuck out of it. And they did an amazing job. So, major credit there. So, for that, I'm going to say in B tier, just slightly below the John Pertwee one. You know how I said before that was like a 3.8? The roof one is like 3.7.5. So, it's very nearly taking the lead. And then, finally, is the new TARDIS, the 14th, and more importantly, 15th Doctor's TARDIS, which is goddamn beautiful. It is massive. It is vast. It is stunning. If I ever get the chance to visit that set, I will do what David Tennant did and run round it. It is beautiful. I know some people criticize it as being a little bit empty and there's a lot of negative space that you couldn't really fill. And I can see that, but for me, I adore it. I wouldn't change a thing about that console room. Oh, well, no, the only thing I would change is the purple lighting from the Devil's Cord. We would always have, because I truly just, I love it. There could be more levers and stuff on the console, but when 14 runs goes, it's got this, he moves one of the levers, and then in the behind the scenes video when the designer Phil, forget his surname, I'm sorry, when he was showing David round and he shows some of the buttons and the switches and then the lever, you have to press a button to move it. I love how it's made now. David Tennant says this one feels more robust than the one I was used to previously, and I love that. I love how long term this set feels. While I'd be worried how many Doctors can we keep this set for without it feeling boring, at the same time, I do like how, like I say, robust the set is and how long-term it feels. That could backfire, but we'll see. For now, my second favourite scene in that TARDIS, the first being when David runs around it, because I remember when we saw the Star Beast and they revealed it, I was as giddy as 14 was, because it truly is a beautiful ship. But yeah, my second favourite sequence with that set is the Devil's Cord, when we see the fun, giddy walk of 15 and Ruby, which then just transforms to the sexy, confident swagger. The reason that relates to the TARDIS is the way it's filmed as they're walking down the, not stairs, but walking down the ramp. The way they look, the way the TARDIS looks, just the way it's filmed, it looks beautiful. It looks like the kind of set that you could never get, you could never run out of new ways to shoot it. So, with all that in mind, I am going to put it in S tier, just slightly above the Capaldi Toyota TARDIS. Going back to what I said about the 3.5, 3.7 thing with the roof and John Pertwee TARDIS, if the Tennant one is 5 out of 5, and the Capaldi one is 4 out of 5, a solid 4 out of 5. The 14-15 one is like 4.3.5 and 3/4. It just takes the lead, because there might be another day where I'm like, no, I did prefer 12's one, but for the most part, I just love the scale and the colour palette and the versatility of the roundels and the RGB-ness, that it just steals my heart. I can't help it. It is a beautiful set. It truly is. So there we have it. What did you guys think? Like I said at the beginning, if you have been following along with your own comment, feel free to leave it now. I genuinely would love to know what your tier list would be, what order, and if you want to go even further, tell me why. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the positive comments on the previous video. And just, yeah, you guys are amazing. Be kind, be good to one another, and I'll see you soon. Bye. I'm a living legend. You ain't
heard yet? You not get the message? From the moment that I steppin' in, I get a couple weapons. Yeah, I turn to a beast when I'm reppin'. I'm a living legend.